Hey guys, good morning to you. It's Todd Liles coming to you live from the back porch, and it's a beautiful day today. It's very bright, and I suppose that's a good thing here, right? It's better than it not being bright. Okay, so I'm on a few minutes early here, about 5 minutes early. Just want to give guys a chance to come in. And before I jump into what's going on officially at 9, what I want to do coming in early is I want to give some shout outs for the folks that are going to start jumping in here. And also want to see if there's some questions that might pop up. So I know I told everybody, come in at 9, so I anticipate that it'll be a few minutes before you guys jump in here. And when you do, I want to get you some shout outs and say hello and welcome and see if you got any particular questions as well. So by the way, as you come in, let me know that you're here. All right, let me know that you're here as well. So we'll get this thing going in just a few minutes. As you come in, let me know that you're here. We're going to start the topics. I've got some great topics mapped out here for you in my book, some talking points, if you will, that we're going to jump into. But let's see. I'm also getting my computer set up here so that I can give those shout outs to folks as I see them come in. Lynn! Hey, Lynn! How are you doing? By the way, your daughter looks like a soccer superstar. So, man, she looks like she's just crushing it out there. Jordan, Assume Financing. Hey, man, thanks for being here, Jordan. How are you doing? So we're going to jump this thing off in like 4 minutes, just giving some folks a chance to get in here. Hey, as I said, before we get going, let me know when you come in. Jordan, commenting like that's a great way. Lynn, by the way, 23 degrees and playing soccer in the cold. I'm sure it's wonderful to watch your daughter. I mean, that's got to be fantastic, but goodness gracious, that's cold. By the way, as you're coming in, guys, thank you. We got 10 folks on here, and I suspect that we'll have quite a few because financing is an important topic. We're going to get going on the topic at 9 o'clock, like in 3 minutes. And I've got several good points here, just to kind of give you a preview. We're going to talk about the need in America today for financing. We're going to talk about trust because, money's very personal. And we're talking about presentation. I got several good points across all of that. I'm also going to save some time at the end for your questions. So if you have a question, post it in the comments. I'll be looking out for those, all right? And also I want to give you a shout out here before we get going. So do me a favor, the best way to get a shout out is just to hit the like button or to drop a comment. Like button, heart button, those are real easy because then I'll see your name here and I want to know who I'm talking to. So if you're watching right now, hit the like button. I'm going to give you a shout out. We're going to get going here in a few moments. But I got some really good points for this session. I suspect that this is going to be the sort of thing that what you're going to want to do. All right, I see some likes going up. Wonderful. I suspect that this is going to be the sort of thing that come next week, you're probably going to want to put in front of your team, your CSRs, your technicians. This will be great for managers as well. And of course, your senior technicians and or your sales professionals. Because, a good conversation about financing and how it's going to boost your sales is great from every direction. And by the way, one of the points in here is going to be about how to introduce it early, especially for the CSRs. So I saw tons of likes go up. That's wonderful. Let me see if I click on this. All right. I'm sure I'll see some more in a few moments. Anthony, thank you for the like. Thank you for being here. 2 minutes, we're going to get going. Anthony, if you got any questions, then drop them in the comments. Jordan, gosh, I miss working with you and Chris. I work at a different company now, but you love seeing us. Hey, you know what? We love giving you the videos. And we're not shy, Jordan. Send us the name of where you're at, man. And we're sales professionals. We can help your company there too. So send us some notifications. Send me a DM. Send me a direct message. We'll reach out to them. Chad, I see you on here, Chad. Thank you for being on here. So appreciate you being here, Chad. Craig is one of those names where sometimes I'll mess up. Craig, it's not Greg, but it's Craig. Craig Coffee. Thank you, Craig. All right, so guys, we got like a minute 30 seconds, something like that. We're gonna get going here. I know that there's more folks on here. Hello, everybody. We're gonna get going here very quickly. You're gonna like this presentation. But again, one of the things that I learned was that if you're going to start at 9 on these things, you probably need to get on a few minutes early. It's kind of like being in the room, so I jumped on a few minutes early. By the way, it is so bright today. I'll show you. I kind of set up right there. I got my Cracker Barrel rocking chairs, and I'll take this really cool Joby that I'm holding by hand. I'll put it on the end of that, and I'll sit right here in my chair, and it's fantastic and it's awesome, but that's why I'm not doing it, because it's too bright. All right, 30 seconds, guys, and we're gonna get started. So I'm actually set up on my grill. Hey, but it works. It works. All right. So let's see. It's 9 o'clock. Fantastic. Thanks for being here. Kevin, thank you for the thumbs up. I really appreciate that. Lets me know when you guys are here. So guys, we're going to talk a little bit about financing, and I'm going to keep this poignant. I'm going to try to drive this message to where it makes sense for you, and it also makes a case. Sean, I see you. I'm going to give you a shout out as I see you come in. Rick, I see you. Thanks for being here. So the first thing that I want to talk to you about, guys, is I want to talk about, Josh, I see you. I'll give you guys more shout outs here in a little bit. But the first thing that I want to talk about is I want to talk about the need for financing. Okay? And to me, I saw some stats because I went looking, and I wrote a blog post. If you saw, it's called "The Case for Financing." Before we're done, I'll link it. But I went looking for some stats because I'm fundamentally just kind of curious. What is the current need for financing? And the way that I basically map that out is just a simple conversation that goes, what are some of the average type service repairs and replacement cost? And then the next question would be, what is the average amount of money that the average American has in their bank account today, right? So that was the premise of the conversation. So with that being said, we'll kind of treat this kind of like a little group work. The first question that I have for you is like, what is your average repair? And I know that's going to vary greatly depending upon if you're an electrician, a plumbing company, an electrical company. But what's your average repair? What's your average ticket, if you will, right? What's your average ticket? So what I want you to do is I want you to think about that. By the way, if you want to comment there. But what we find is that those averages, they scale pretty greatly. We typically find that with air conditioning, if we're not including the replacement type sale, that average is typically going to be on the lower side. And then we see a guy like Sean, and Sean's got 500 to 1,500, and I would suspect that Sean's most likely going to be a plumber or electrician, because we typically find that in the plumbing and electrical trades, they're going to run fewer of those calls, and they're going to have larger service items to take care of on the spot, right? So you're going to be looking at the $500 to $1,500, and it's our guys that are in our plumbing groups, very common that they're going to be averaging $1,000 average ticket, because oftentimes that's just what it's going to be. They might only run 2 calls. So that's sort of like the first thing. And then you start rolling into the question, what's your average when you start adding bigger ticket items in there? So Sean, for the sake of example, if you're doing IAQ in HVAC, then you're going to have a larger average ticket if you're doing a good job at that, because IAQ is a larger investment. Now, if we talk about replacement, so Josh commented on here that he's in HVAC, and his average ticket year to date is $9,300. That's a good average ticket, by the way, I would say, Josh. So I'm not sure what all goes into that pot, if that's what we would refer to as a true average ticket where we count the zeros. Even if it's not, I would say that $9,300 is a very good average ticket to be shooting for when it comes to HVAC. I don't know all the ins and outs that are in there, and I know there's some people tell you it should be 20, and maybe that's their cost of doing business, and that's fine. Maybe, but you know what? That's not the point. The real point is yours is $9,300. Thank you for sharing that. So if we take these kind of concepts into consideration, right, and then we go back to the question, like, what are the averages of amount of money? Yeah, 93. I'd say it's good. What are the averages amount of money that people have in their bank account? So look, I found 2 different stats on this, okay? So let me give you one stat, and then we'll look at a second stat. And they're, people do their best. Companies that research this do their best to kind of discover that. So here's one of the major studies. The Federal Reserve, all right, the Federal Reserve did a calculation to try to figure out what were the average amount of monies and savings in the American bank account. And from the way I understand that, they basically took the whole of America and they put them into one big pot and said, let's figure out what that average is. Now you got to keep in mind that means that's going to be a little bit skewed, where some are going to have a lot of money, some are going to have limited money. Lewis is on here. Thank you, man. Lewis Bruno, guys. This guy knows about financing. We'll bring you in a few moments, Lewis, if you don't mind. So what the Federal Reserve concluded, that the dividing line, if you will, was $4,830. That was the dividing line. So when you think about that, they're basically saying that as a whole, if we put everybody into one big pot, the dividing line is $4,830. Now, that's a large conglomerated number. That's like right in the middle. So here's the main point, right? If you've got large tickets and replacement items, there's almost nobody that's going to, well, let me rephrase that. It's saying that at least 50% of the American population is going to be half the money out for that $9,300 ticket that you were talking about. Now, there's another study here, 2017, so it's a year old, Go Banking Rate Survey, said that when you don't average it together and you just look and say, what is the amount of money, it said more than half, which is 57% of all Americans have $1,000 or less in the bank account. So the other one was an aggregated average, and this one's not taking averages. It's just saying, let's just look at the money. Now, guys, what I'm going to tell you is that is a massive amount of opportunity that is not being taken care of if you're not financing. It's a massive amount of opportunity. So my first question that I wanted to pose to you is there a need? And the answer is pretty clear from what you've said. If your averages are where they're at, then the answer is yes, there's a need. And now let me put another thing in perspective for you, all right? And this is kind of an interesting thing. 55% of my jobs are financed, Josh. Well, that's good, but what I think we might just have discovered is that maybe it should be even more. Because if we've got 57% of our clients that are sitting on $1,000 or less, and you come to them and you got a $300, what you consider to be very basic repair, that's taking 30% of what's available in their bank, and that could be a very, very tough place to be. Guys, when I started as an HVAC tech in 2001 with my wife and I, having a shared family bank account, there were months where we were around 600 or less in our bank account, and it would have been a very, very difficult choice in that young stage to choose between one of your average repairs or food. So there is a need in America. I think I've made my case on that, and that's the main point, is there is a need in America. You may serve a more affluent base, you may not, but there's a need in America. Let's slide to the second point, all right? But by the way, before I slide to the second point, let me ask you guys a question real quick. Just all I want to know is, do you think that I gave you some evidence here that you're going to find valuable? Did I share something with you that maybe you're like, that's not news to me, but it is valuable? Or did you even get your eyes awoken with those stats? By the way, they're not my stats, Federal Reserve stats. And then some banking study stats. Did you know that? Is that going to be valuable to you? Drop a yes in here. By the way, you're probably not going to be, hitting that to your clients necessarily, but it's kind of like you kind of know that there's a large percentage of people that probably have a need. Craig, thank you. Joshua, hey man, my pleasure, Joshua. Got to get Brittany to that class, and I know you will, right? It's our pleasure. So let's slide over to the next point that I've got here in my notes here that I prepped for you this morning, all right? Level 2 is actually what the finance offer is. And Bruno, we might have to bring you in so that you can unpack that for folks. Tom, welcome. Level 2 is trust. Let's touch on trust for just a moment, okay? And I got 2 points underneath trust. Point number 1 underneath trust is when you're talking about money with people, I get that can be really personal, right? It can be personal because you're talking about money. Good morning, Tom. You're talking about money. So one of the things that you have to do is that you've got to start establishing trust fast. You got to start establishing trust early, and you got to do things for people to kind of check you to go, yeah, this guy has proven that he is a trustworthy source. So I'm going to jump into the presentation, more on that in just a few moments, and talk about how to do that. But one of the things that I just have here as a note for you is that when it comes to trust, you got to prove your trust early. And a lot of times it's just doing the little things. If you say you're going to be there at a certain time, then you're there at a certain time. If you're running behind, you make sure that you give plenty of alert notice, because the client is checking you way before they're even wondering if they're going to have to finance a big project with you. The client is checking you in multiple steps, just asking themselves the question, is this person trustworthy? So you want to do the things that prove you trustworthy. Hey, Aaron, good morning to you, and you're welcome. So you want to do the things that can prove you're trustworthy. And there's more than just what you do yourself. So going to Lewis here, I don't live in his marketplace, so I don't see his advertising or his marketing, but I would be willing to bet that his advertisement and his marketing is one that's very brand focused on building trust and value to the client, so that you're stepping in to that call with a certain amount of trust that is given. It's like the first time I bought an Apple product, I trusted that it was going to be superior, at least to what I had with it, because my first Apple product was a Mac computer, because there was a lot of value building and branding that was already done prior to that. All right, let's jump on to what happens in your presentation. I've got a couple points here in your presentation. So this is going to be for you, all right? So we're going to talk about how we establish that trust, how we get it going early, and what we do to make sure that things flow smoothly. So in your presentation, one of the first things that you want to do is you want to make sure that you're establishing financing very, very, very early. Let me stress that again. You want to establish financing very, 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 very early. It doesn't need to be odd to you that you offer it. It needs to be common. It needs to be as common as, telling the client that they can make their investment, or if you like to use more common language, that they can pay for your services. It should be as common as saying you can write a check, or you can use a credit card, or you can use cash. It should be almost just assumed that that is an option that, of course, you're going to offer, and it's weird to you that no one else has ever offered it before. So you need to assume it very, very early. You do that in your marketing, you do that on your website, and you even do that on the phone. So CSRs, or people that work with CSRs, this needs to be part of the conversation with homeowners. Mr. and Mrs. Smith, when our service professional comes out to your home today, service professional could be technician, it could be your sales professional. I'm just going to use service professional as a catch-all. When our service professional comes out to your home today, they're going to show you all your options. They're going to evaluate everything that they have found, make sure your questions are answered. Now, I'm going to skip a little bit. I'm going to jump to the close. And when they're done and you pick what you'd like, they will collect for their services today. Now, Mrs. Smith, we got some tremendous ways that you can handle this. You could use, credit card, cash, write a check. We've also even got some terrific finance options. What's your preference, by the way? Now, if you're doing that early, especially when someone that's calling in because they are interested in the possibility of new equipment, they know that going into it. If you are well trained in the office, you will be surprised at how many clients will do a pre-credit check with you right there on the phone. And even if you don't go there, at least you're establishing that early. All right. Another point on that is it needs to be on your paperwork. It needs to be a printed component of all of your physical pieces, or if you're all digital, it needs to be a digital component of all of your sales presentations. It needs to be represented very strong, very early. You need to include that on your paperwork. It needs to be a big, big part of your price guides. It needs to be a big part of your investment guides, your options guides, whatever you call them. Clients need to begin to see that you've got these options, and it needs to already be there. That's going to go back to tying it into trust, by the way. When those options are represented in a smart and clever way, not a trying to hide something way, but a complete transparent way. And there's a difference. Sometimes we think that smart and clever means sneaky, and it doesn't. It means smart, it means clever, it means transparent, it means obvious. You put that on your paperwork early, you're going to drop some of those concerns, you're going to drop some of those trust issues, okay? You've also got to insert it into your questions. I already covered that with you when it comes to your CSRs on the phone. Now, let's say that you're in the presence of a homeowner and you're the person talking to them about potential new systems. You, as a sales professional, must know how to insert that into your interview or evaluation process early. You got to do it with comfort. You got to be able to ask these questions, and you got to be able to navigate through any obstacles. By the way, if it's just part of your paperwork and it's part of your beginning process, it's going to make it a lot easier for you. There was a point in time earlier in my career when it was an odd thing for some folks, and I could realize how it could still be uncomfortable for you if you've not done a finance deal. And there's still a lot of air conditioning and plumbing and electrical companies that haven't. But you got to insert it into your questions. You got to find ways to navigate that into your process. Hey, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, when it comes to the systems at our company, we're talking about, 10-year parts and labor warranty many times. And the great news about that is just the way that we set up our options for homeowners is that they don't have to come out of pocket with this all at once, which is a really great way for them to afford the best of what they're looking for. Now, what you might also find interesting, Mrs. Smith, is by the time that you weigh into consideration the different efficiency systems that we have and the utility costs that it's going to save you, by the time you put those utility costs back into your estimated monthly payment, you could be looking at an estimated monthly payment for as little as $200 a month. Depending upon what you get, it could go up possibly to $400 a month. But a lot of clients are surprised that they can get a complete system taking care of all their needs for so little. By the way, how does that sound to you? The idea of having a great system and it's a very low monthly note, would that be something you'd be interested in? That's one way to present it. When you get confirmation, you can then begin to ask which one are they more comfortable with. Now, one of the things that I've seen, and I think it's a really clever back approach, is to tie in the savings that you have through an increased system in terms of energy efficiencies and other type savings, and actually show that as to how it can drive down the monthly note, because there are some companies that will give longer monthly notes for better systems with their finance company. Now that takes a little work and a little figuring out, but it is something that's kind of neat, and it's innovative, and I know that there are companies that are doing that. All right, so you've got to be able to present financing as well at your cost presentation. Now, when I say cost presentation, I am not talking about what the total of the system that you're asking them to invest in is going to be. That's not what I mean. What I mean by cost presentation is that there is some point in time when you bring your findings to the homeowner and you are reviewing all of the costs that it's going to be to keep what they currently have as is and just make repairs and maintain. That's the cost presentation. You're going to review those costs to keep. You're going to review the costs that they're going to lose for utility overpayments. You're going to review the hard cost of them not replacing that system. That's what I mean. And I kind of had referenced that. So when you're starting to build up these very hard costs of actual money coming out of their pocket, go back to what I shared with you earlier. Go back to what I shared with you earlier and think about this. This could be very fascinating, right? And this is see you, man, see you. So Lewis, if you can hang on. Hey, everybody, my beautiful daughter. She is a gorgeous little part of my life, and I love her to death. All right, baby, go watch your show.
No, I'm gonna go play.
You gonna go play?
Yeah.
Make sure you look for snakes, all right? You know how to do that. All right, so let me lay one thing on you here. This is going to be a fascinating thought process. A lot of times we think that the only reason why someone would replace their system, period, is because it is aged out. Here's a weird concept, and I'm just going to lay this on the table and let you think about it. But what if a client can't afford, $2,500 in repairs on a system that's 5 years old, but they could afford a $300 monthly note, even though maybe the system would technically continue to run for a period of time if they can make the repairs. Well, here's my thought. If you can finance those repairs and the client wants to do that, do that. But you might be surprised for some clients to look and go, "You okay?" And she fell off the swing. Hang on a second, baby. Let me finish this thought, and okay? You might be surprised that some of your clients would rather not finance a 5-year system with repairs. A system that's 5 years old with repairs. They would rather actually go ahead and get a new one with 10-year part and labor warranty and lock it in and be done. I mean, think about that. If you go back to number one, the need for financing, okay? So you got to begin to present it in your cost. And if you put it as part of your cost evaluation, you'll be surprised at how easy it may actually be for homeowners to consider it now as part of the value consideration. All right. So you got to know your system investment totals. Makes it more worry-free for them. I agree, Sean. You got to know your system investment totals. In other words, what I'm saying there is you just got to be comfortable with the way that your company prices your goods and services. And you got to be really comfortable with communicating financing and knowing how to work through those numbers, all right? And then the last part that I have for today is you got to know your objections. You got to know your objections. And these are going to be some of the most common objections that you're going to get here, all right? So let me share with you what they are. Number one is you're going to have trust objections. I mean, just real base objections where people are starting to get kind of weird about the fact that you're asking them to run a credit check. The best way to overcome that is what I already shared with you. Start adding that in early. And if they still feel a little sensitive about it, there's very easy ways to do this. Most of your credit checks today can be done on the phone in the presence of the homeowner. You can make that super transparent. You can place that phone call. They can hear the conversation. Just do that in front of them. And of course, you know, that is going to go a long way. Number two, when people have concerns about the concept of paying interest and they don't want to me, that's not a very difficult one. Usually, in my perspective, that's more like a smokescreen or excuse. One of the easiest ways to overcome that is just to remind them that there is no early payment penalty. So, Mrs. Smith, we could get this going for you, and if you would like, then later on you could pay this off early. Do you want to get back on camera again?
No.
What do you want, sweetie?
Thanksgiving, before we eat dinner, lunch. Wait, which one are we doing? Thanksgiving.
We're gonna eat dinner and we're gonna eat lunch. We're gonna eat all of it.
So, I want.
Talk like a big girl.
We should go around the table and say who we're thankful for.
Okay, that's a good idea.
And why we are thankful.
I think that's a good idea.
I know who I'm going to say who I'm thankful for.
Hey guys, she's who, baby?
Macy.
Your cousin Macy. That's sweet. You know, she gets it honestly, guys. She gets it honestly. Her daddy likes the camera too. We can't play like we don't. It's kind of funny, and this is real life. It is real life from the back porch. I'm not sitting in my studio, and I got kids. My son, he may come out here at any moment, and that's just part of it, right? So I imagine that before this is done, she'll want to get back in it again. It is 9:30. She's basically, my daughter's saying, "Hey, Dad, wrap this up." So I might do that for my family here and wrap it up. I'll do it for your family too. You probably got. She's talking. I'll tell you what, baby. You give me 5 minutes, and I'll wrap it up, and we'll go do something fun, okay? Yeah, really, absolutely. If you give me 5 minutes, give me 5. All right. Stop. Give me 5 minutes, kid. Okay. Let me finish up here with you guys, and then you got all my attention, all right? All right. So, paying interest, that's not a big deal. If they've got the money and they don't want to pay the interest, then tell them to pay it off after you leave. If they don't have the money, then all things have interest on them, and you guys can get things like 0% these days, or 0% to 3 to 6 to 9. But if you're going to do that, it's going to cost your company some money, so you got to make sure you build it into your totals. Talking to the bank. If you start getting objections like, hey, let me talk to my bank, you can pretty much count that that's most likely a procrastination and trust objection, and it's most likely that they haven't actually come to the point that they want to do the job with you anyway. So what I really advise you to do is circle back on, do they believe that your recommendations are the right ones for them and their family? That's really the root of that. It's smoke screens. That's essentially what it boils down to. Okay, guys, look, we'll do some more of these. I really enjoy hanging out with you guys. It's a lot of fun, and I think that you guys probably find them valuable. There's a lot more that could be said. You know, on this one little short point conversation, we could break this down and into a bunch of different directions and do some training. So that's that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to close up here with some recommendations for you. Get our Overcome Objections book on the website. If you don't already have that, it's literally a 45-page book, and it's a legit book. I wrote it a couple years ago, but the content still stands strong. It's also free. So just go there if you don't have it, put your name and email in it. If you go to the website, navigate to free resources, you'll see it. Very good stuff. If you want to be part of our next sales program where we go over this and even more, then the next one's going to be in January. I think it's like January 14th, I think is when that starts. Getting there, we limit that class to 25, so you're going to get a lot of personal attention. We've got our CSR class in January. We've got our manager program, and we've got our technician program. We'd love to have you there. And if you just would like to have us do some of these for your team, we actually can do limited training sessions, or we can go all in with you and you can become what we call part of the accountability program. Bottom line is there's ways that we can help you out. Now, if you do nothing else, what I want you to do is I want you to show this video to your current team at your company. They need this information. And if you want a deeper dive, just reach out to me, and perhaps you might be interested in getting one of those limited session packages, because we can certainly help you out. There's no question in my brain that whatever we charge is going to be substantially less than the returns that you're going to get. And that's the most important thing, right? Good training is very free because it's going to make you a lot of money. That's it. Like this, share this, post this to all the places, and send us a message if you need any help. And as all things, go turn learning into earning. Hey, Willa, you ready to have some fun?
Yeah.
What do you want to do? Go see the Grinch movie? Is that what you want to do?
Yeah.
Should we do that? Should we do that? I think today, guys, we're going to go see the Grinch movie.
Yeah.
Which I don't want to see, but I'll do it for my kids because I love them. Bye.
I heard that.